The next type of spores are called as the binucleate spores. So as I've shown you the figure in the previous page that a cell should carry a single nucleus in this situation, but yes, there are certain fungi in certain stages of their life cycle. They develop cells in which each cell carries two nuclei. So such a situation is called as binucleate situation or dikaryotic phase, because there are two nucleus present there, so it is called as dikaryon phase. Now binucleate spores are non-motile spores and they are produced by the dikaryotic mycelium, or what is also called as the secondary mycelium, and these are meant for multiplication of the mycelium, which is called as dikaryotic mycelium. So these spores are produced so that there should be increase in the population or of the binucleate structure, and they are produced by basidiomycetes. Basidiomycetes are those fungi which form mushrooms. So for example agaricus, for example puccinia, and these are of different types. Now binucleate spores can be acidiospores, uridospores, or tolutospores. So there are various types of binucleate spores depending upon various types of basidiomycetes. Now the next type of spores are ascospores. Ascospores are non-motile meiospores. Remember that all the spores so far you have learned are, like for example zoospores, conidiospores, oidospores. These all are the product of mitosis. But when we talk about the ascospores and basidiospores, these last two spores are the result of meiosis. That means reductional division. So these spores are non-motile and they are product of meiosis. That's why they are called as meiospores. And remember, ascospores are produced inside a sac-like structure called as ascus, and usually inside the ascus they are formed, and then they would be 8 in number, and they are produced inside. That's why it is mentioned here, they are formed endogenously, and they are characteristics of the ascomycetes. So ascomycetes fungi, for example aspergillus and penicillium, they form a sac-like body called as ascus. In that structure, by meiosis, 8 spores are formed, and these 8 spores formed inside are called as ascospores. In the same manner, in basidiomycetes we have basidiospores. So these are non-motile meiospores. Again, same thing, they are non-motile. They are product of meiosis, but they are produced in a structure which is club shaped, and it is called as basidium. So there we have ascus, here we have basidium, and then in their case we had 8 spores generally formed, and they are formed inside. In this case of basidiospores, usually there are 4 spores and they are formed outside. So usually 4 basidiospores are formed exogenously, and they are characteristic of basidiomycetes, example agaricus, campestris, or the edible mushroom which we consume. Now what is the importance of these spores? These spores help the fungi to multiply rapidly. These spores help these fungi to pass the unfavorable condition, especially in the form of chlamydospores, which we discussed on the last sheet. So because chlamydospores carry a thick wall, they provide protective layer around the living structure inside, which has entered into dormancy. When conditions are favorable, even the chlamydospores crack open and a new fungus will start from there. Now this also help in rapid multiplication, example zoospores, example sporangiospores. They help in spreading the fungi to newer areas. That means they help to spread to new area as well as to the substratum, and they are used to raise the pure culture to study fungi. Now scientists in the labs, those who study fungi, they perform experiments, so they grow the fungi with the help of spores. We all know we consume mushrooms. The edible mushrooms are also cultured with the help of the spores only. Now the below diagrams you can easily see, this is a zoosporangium, and from within the zoosporangium, which is aquatic structure, comes out the flagellated thin-walled spores, which are called as zoospores. This is the sporangium. Now in this sporangium, these structures are terrestrial or airborne. When this wall will crack open, these non-motile spores will come out from there. These are intercalary thick wall structures called as chlamydospores. The hyphae which carries the conidia in the basipetal manner, bottom will be young, top will be the old one, are called as conidiophores. Then in the hyphae, individual cells may separate and round about, which is called as oidea. Then ascospores are formed within the ascus by meiosis. They are formed within the ascus by meiosis in ascomycetes, and they are non-motile spores. Then basidiospores are formed outside the basidium by meiosis, and they are generally 4 in number, and they are characteristic of the basidiomycetes. Now this is how binucleate spores look like. These are very common in basidiomycetes like acidiospores, uridospore, tolutospores. So I hope these spores point are clear to you. Now the next thing to understand